On the day of the arranged marriage, I was reborn. I saw my elder sister seize the opportunity and snatch away my former husband. "Sister, it's my turn to enjoy a life of luxury now," she said. I knew very well that my elder sister had also been reborn. But she didn't know that the wealth and prosperity in the previous life were all earned by me myself. I sneered with contempt and turned around to throw myself into the arms of the heir of a wealthy family. Can it still be called rebirth if one doesn't use their brain after being reborn? Mom, I don't agree to this arranged marriage. My consciousness wandered in the darkness and then a voice suddenly rang out, waking me up. It was as if my soul had suddenly returned to my body. I found myself at the arranged marriage banquet in my previous life. I was reborn. "Mom, I don't want to marry Ethan." My elder sister's voice was still as shrill as the knife that had been used to stab me in the previous life. Mom widened her eyes upon hearing this and scolded in a low voice, "Are you out of your mind? With such a wealthy family available for marriage, who else do you want to marry?" Mom's horrified tone almost made me laugh. In the previous life, Mother had been partial to my elder sister and had gone to great lengths to arrange an arranged marriage between her and the heir of a wealthy family. As for me, I could only marry William, an already down and out nouveau riche. My elder sister said excitedly, "I want to marry William." "Yes, that nouveau riche. Mom, believe me, he will make a fortune in the future." Emily secretly hated that Isabel had been suppressed by herself for many years in the previous life. Unexpectedly, Isabel had lived a good life after getting married, while she herself could only end up on the streets in a wretched state. Anyway, she must grab William, this cash cow, today. Seeing my elder sister eagerly snatching a husband, I quickly sorted out the current situation. First, my elder sister had also been reborn. Second, she was still as stupid as before. After hearing this, Mom was so angry that she almost fainted. The eldest daughter didn't know what had gotten into her and kept talking nonsense. Just after waking up, I witnessed a quarrel between mother and daughter, and I was so amused that I trembled with laughter. "Sister, it was agreed that you would marry Ethan. If you refuse like this, it will bring shame to the Isabel family." I interrupted their conversation, pretending to be offering sincere advice. Emily said in a sarcastic tone, "Isabel, don't get too smug. I will marry him. This time, you won't be so lucky. Sister, you are so favored at home. How can you marry a nouveau riche? Let me marry him instead." I tried to use a goading tactic to finalize the arranged marriage. Anyway, I would never marry William, that playboy who was fond of gambling again. Sure enough, my elder sister took the bait. "Isabel, don't you dare dream about it. If you dare to snatch my husband, I'll make you pay." Emily glared at me fiercely like an evil spirit, as if she would come up and hit me regardless of her image if I said one more word. I put on an expression of humiliation, but inside I was secretly delighted. Since my sister had such a nice misunderstanding, I wouldn't shatter her illusion. Finally, I don't know what kind of bewitching words my sister used on Mom. Before the banquet ended, the Isabel family announced 2 arranged marriages. I was arranged to marry Ethan, and Emily was arranged to marry William. Late at night, the living room of the villa was still brightly lit. I pushed open the door. Mother, who was sitting on the velvet sofa, turned her head. When she saw it was me, the originally kind smile disappeared instantly, and she turned her face away again. I advised her to go to bed early, but Mother said, "I still have to check the dowry for your sister. Your sister won't be as comfortable as you marrying into a wealthy family. I need to take more care of it." I looked at the house deeds and jewelry that Mother had prepared for Emily and couldn't help asking, "What about mine?" Mother's hands, which were sorting out the jewelry, paused, and her tone was impatient. "Your sister sacrificed her own happiness just to let you marry into a wealthy family. What more dowry do you want? I'm telling you, don't forget your sister's good intentions. After you marry into the Ethan family, you should help her more. In the previous arranged marriage, they said I wasn't worthy of a wealthy family. In this life, they still belittled me for Emily's sake. Mom, you are really partial." I gave a cold smile and didn't tell her that the capital chain of the family company would soon have problems. The next day, the family was indeed in chaos. Emily impatiently reproached Mother, "Mom, don't you feel sorry for your daughter when there's a problem with the company? If you really love me, give me the company left by Dad. I'll let William use it for business. By the way, give Isabel's share to me too. Anyway, she's too stupid to do business. Mom suddenly realized, yes, my dear daughter is still so smart. You always have good ideas. I silently stared at this mother and daughter who were complacent. Since father passed away, I had been running the family company. I don't know why they were so blind as to think that I was a good-for-nothing. Emily glanced at me standing aside and curled her lips disdainfully. Sister, don't blame Mom for being partial. I'm going to marry a billionaire. Unlike you, who's so useless and can only pick up what I don't want. After saying that, she swayed her hips like a water snake and went to find William to build their relationship. After saying that, she swayed her hips like a water snake and went to find William to build their relationship. I wasn't angry. There were more surprises waiting for Emily in this marriage that she had misjudged. She had always naively thought that my wealth in the previous life was all obtained through that guy William. However, I could control the Zhao family, but sister, you may not necessarily have that ability. Now, I just need to quietly watch from the outside as my sister gets into more and more trouble. So why should I say more? I'll just wait and watch the good show. 2 months later, the engagement banquet for my elder sister and me was held in the most luxurious hotel in the city. My elder sister proposed that we hold it together, under the pretext of showing the deep affection between sisters. In fact, I knew very well that it was just because William didn't have much money. In order to win his heart, my sister shamelessly came up with the idea of having the banquet together with me. The preparation for the engagement banquet was in full swing, and everything was of top-notch luxury. Ethan doted on me in every possible way and couldn't wait to present the best of the world to me. He told me that he only agreed to hold the joint engagement banquet this time out of consideration for my family. After the engagement, he would hold an even grander wedding for me alone. After the engagement, he would hold an even grander wedding for me alone. On that day, in the hotel, glasses were clinking, and the sounds of laughter and champagne corks popping came one after another. The groomsmen and bridesmaids peeked out of the dressing room with smiles on their faces. When they saw me, they exclaimed in amazement, "The bride is so beautiful. Her skin is so fair and rosy." I blushed with shyness at these words. In the past, under Emily's showiness, no one had ever praised me so straightforwardly. Claire, Ethan's younger sister, seeing that I was embarrassed, smiled and asked them to go and help elsewhere. She promised to give each of them a big red envelope when the engagement banquet was over. Then the groomsmen and bridesmaids cheered and dispersed. Claire picked up a piece of chocolate mousse from the tray and brought it to my mouth. After thanking her, I took a small bite. If it hadn't taken a long time to put on my makeup today, I'm sure I could have eaten several pieces of cake in one go. Claire gently stroked the gorgeous wedding dress on me and sighed, "Sister-in-law, your custom-made wedding dress is a limited edition this year. There are only a few of them in the whole world." I was almost choked with fright by this description. Claire quickly poured a glass of champagne and handed it to me to help me catch my breath. I looked down and saw a few crumbs of cake had fallen on the snow-white wedding dress. I felt terribly distressed. "Claire, this wedding dress is so precious. I accidentally got it dirty. Will your brother be angry? Will he think that I don't value this arranged marriage?" I felt a bit uneasy inside. Hearing this, Claire burst out laughing. "Sister-in-law, how could that be? My brother is so smitten with you that he can't wait to present the best of the world to you. How could he blame you for this wedding dress? He wouldn't bear to do that." Suddenly, I remembered that in my previous life, when my elder sister Emily got engaged, she just wore an ordinary dress. She didn't have any luxurious custom-made wedding dress at all. My heart was pounding wildly. Claire continued to blink at me. "Sister-in-law, don't blame me for being talkative. The main thing is that my brother really likes you. He's especially afraid that you won't accept this arranged marriage, so he didn't dare to come to see you. He can only try his best in these aspects. But based on my understanding of my brother, he definitely won't tell you about these things after doing them. So I, as his younger sister, have to tell you." A warm current surged in my heart. With my red lips slightly parted, I couldn't wait to see Ethan. In my previous life, when I was starting a business and lacked funds, Ethan secretly helped me many times. I had always thought that he was helping me for Emily's sake unexpectedly, that deep affection had always belonged to me from the very beginning. Emily was wearing an expensive yet tacky dress, chatting and drinking with the female guests. In the past, these noble ladies and young misses in the circle would still be polite to her. But since they knew about her arranged marriage with William, especially after the engagement was settled, Emily had shown off many times that she had married her Mr. Right, which made everyone laugh at her behind her back. Poor my sister didn't have the slightest idea. Emily did have a nice appearance and figure. Since she appeared at the banquet, William's eyes hadn't left her. His eyes were filled with greed and desire. I couldn't help feeling disgusted. Emily really had a strange taste. After the engagement, Emily had gone to find William more than once. I couldn't believe she could endure that look until now. No, perhaps, in Emily's eyes, it was an affirmation of her charm. At the banquet, Emily held her chin up, like a proud peacock. William's newly married wife is really beautiful. Look at her figure and temperament. I'm so envious. Yes, I heard that William spent a lot of money on this wedding. The pomp is really grand. Miss Isabel from the Isabel family is really lucky to meet such a good match. Emily was floating on air, thinking that with her youth, beauty and marriage into a wealthy family, she would surely shine in high society in the future. Following a burst of exclamations, everyone's eyes turned to me as I just stepped into the venue. The noble ladies suddenly noticed the uniqueness of my wedding dress and were filled with envy. I saw this wedding dress abroad. It's so expensive, and you may not be able to buy it even if you have the money. Miss Isabel, the younger daughter of the Isabel family, looks much better in this wedding dress than Emily. Emily stood in the crowd, her fingernails almost digging into her palms. Why could Isabel wear a custom-made wedding dress in this life while I just wore an ordinary banquet dress in my previous life? Emily took a step forward, pretending to be affectionate, and took my arm, speaking with sarcasm. The wedding dress is nice, but it doesn't suit you very well. You could have just worn something casual for the engagement banquet. Before she finished speaking, a handsome figure walked quickly towards us. It was Ethan. Ethan was wearing a straight handmade suit today, looking elegant and charming. He said in a low voice, "If my Isabel isn't worthy of it, then no one else can wear this wedding dress." Emily withdrew her hand awkwardly and stood aside. Ethan put his arm around my slender waist and left Emily with a handsome and unrestrained figure from the back. Not far away, several noble ladies were whispering to each other, "This Emily from the Isabel family is really despicable. She actually said such things to her own younger sister. Alas, you don't understand. Her family has been investing in the eldest daughter all the time. But in the end, the younger daughter is more beautiful and graceful. I'm afraid Emily is very jealous of her younger sister." Emily's face turned livid. According to her usual temper, she would surely have cursed back. But thinking that William couldn't afford to offend people in his future business, Emily could only raise her head and drink up the champagne in her hand in one gulp, then turned around and walked towards the washroom. I watched her lonely figure and couldn't help raising a slight smile at the corners of my mouth. "Sister, don't be impatient. The best is yet to come." Seeing that I was staring at Emily absent-mindedly, Ethan bent down and whispered in my ear, "What are you looking at? Are you unhappy because I was a bit harsh on your sister just now?" The oncoming hormonal scent and warm breath made my ears turn red instantly. I was at a loss and didn't know what to do for a moment. In my previous life, there was a gap in our identities between Ethan and me. In my impression, Ethan had always been a calm and composed person, often reminding me to pay attention to problems in my career. Now, the Ethan described by Claire just now was so shy and timid anyway. I never expected that Ethan would suddenly come close to me and talk to me. I stammered, "I'm not angry. I don't bother to care about my sister." In front of Ethan, I unconsciously relaxed. I felt that I never had to hide myself in front of him, and my true thoughts just blurted out all of a sudden. I quickly covered my mouth, realizing my carelessness. In front of others, I had always been gentle and docile. I felt a bit uncertain in my heart. Revealing my conflict with the Isabel family and my disdain for my sister at this time, I didn't know what Ethan would think. Would he think that I was scheming and good at disguising myself, Or would he despise me for being two-faced? I took a step back in surprise, trying to distance myself from Ethan to see his expression. As a result, my fingertips accidentally touched the back of Ethan's hand. Feeling the warm pulse under his famous watch, an electric current rushed through my whole body, and suddenly I felt dizzy and my legs went weak. Ethan quickly supported me and said with a concerned look on his face, "Are you okay? Did you drink too much? I'll ask Claire to help you go upstairs to the private room and sit down for a while." I shook my head and asked softly, "Ethan, I don't have a good relationship with my sister. Do you think I'm a bad person for being like this with my own family?" Ethan quickly said, "I know it's not your fault. I just asked you just now because I was afraid that you would be bullied by your sister without knowing it." Hearing what Ethan said, a ripple stirred in my heart. It seemed like the feeling of being attracted to someone. The engagement banquet was gradually coming to an end, and there was a commotion at the entrance of the banquet hall. I looked in the direction of the sound and saw Diana, William's mistress. She was the mistress who had been with William for the longest time, and many people outside had heard of her. Only Emily, for the sake of the unpredictable wealth in the future, pretended not to know about it. Diana rushed in with tears streaming down her face and ran straight towards William, crying bitterly. "William, I didn't want to make trouble on this happy day. But, I'm already pregnant with your child. I really can't hide it anymore," Diana said sadly, which attracted the attention of all the guests present. Emily turned pale with fright. She never expected that her good husband had hooked up with other women outside and even got someone pregnant. And it happened at the most glorious moment of her life. Emily was so angry that she felt dizzy and suddenly collapsed into Sophia's arms. Sophia was at a loss and quickly ordered people to seize Diana. William stopped the security guards and others, then turned to Sophia and said, "Mom, Diana is pregnant with my child. I'll send her back first and then come to find you and Emily." Sophia was almost driven to high blood pressure by William's shameless appearance. In a blink of an eye, this scandal spread among the guests. Isabel sneered slightly at the corners of her mouth. Fortunes change, and today it was finally Emily's turn to make a fool of herself. Her husband, whom she had snatched by all means, had done such a thing. How on earth would Emily deal with it after she woke up? Sophia felt sorry for her daughter and quietly ordered people to take the opportunity to give Diana some money. The price was negotiable as long as she went to have an abortion quickly and stopped pestering William. After William came back, he awkwardly put on a smiling face and kept toasting the guests, trying to cover up this matter. Emily woke up from her fainting and instead of going to settle accounts with William, she put on a smiling face and greeted the guests like a virtuous wife, as if nothing had happened. After the banquet, she also went home with William. The guests at the banquet were all puzzled. What's wrong with Emily? She can endure such a great grievance. Could it be that she's been so shocked that she's gone stupid? Emily usually acts like a spoiled young lady, always having her own way. William is juste un nouveau riche. What on earth has charmed her? A few days later, Emily was borrowing money in the circle, acting like Mrs. William, saying that it was for William to turn over his business. Many people lent her some money out of consideration for the Isabel family. However, if they lent a small amount, they would be sneered at by Emily, who said that they looked down on her William. A kind-hearted socialite advised her, "Don't pour all your money into William. When your family goes bankrupt, you'll have plenty to cry about." Emily didn't take it seriously and sneered, "You stupid thing with no vision. Don't come crawling to us when we make money." The socialite gave her a disdainful roll of the eyes and turned around and walked away. Emily scraped together several million and gave it to William. She herself did housework at home every day, looking exactly like a virtuous wife and loving mother. While she was busy, she muttered to herself, "When William becomes prosperous, all those who laugh at me will kneel at my feet." One early morning, I was still lying in bed, half asleep. Emily barged into my bedroom uninvited. Claire followed closely behind, looking rather displeased. I shook my head at her, and then Claire left. I sat up warily and subconsciously covered my body with the quilt, scolding her angrily. "What are you doing bursting in like this early in the morning?" Emily looked at me with a pitying expression and said scornfully, "As a wife, you're still lazing in bed early in the morning. Don't you know to make breakfast for your husband?" I was almost amused by her words. Although your William has fallen on hard times, he's still a nouveau riche after all. Can't he even afford to pay for a nanny? Emily's face flushed red as she said, you're so lazy and good for nothing here, not acting like a wife at all. Sooner or later, Ethan will abandon you. I said cheerfully, even if you get abandoned, I won't. Why don't you take a good look at how flirtatious your William is? I casually threw off the quilt and walked to the dressing table. Only then did Emily notice the row of famous brand cosmetics on the dressing table, all of which were limited editions that were hard to find on the market. Emily was extremely astonished and muttered to herself, did Ethan buy these for you? She couldn't help but step forward, touching these cosmetics enviously, and was almost about to open the bottles. I reached out and slapped her hand away. Don't touch them randomly. Are they yours? Don't touch them without permission. I gave her a cold glance. Don't you have any? Ask your William to buy them for you. Emily was extremely angry. She shook her hands and sat on the edge of the bed, looking complacent as she said, I have plenty at home. I just didn't expect you to have such treatment. I pretended to pick up the skin care products on the table and started to wipe my arms. In fact, these things were bought by Ethan on his own initiative. It was also my first time using them. Just to put Emily's ugly face in its place, Emily was full of envy and hatred. Seeing that I ignored her, she was about to lose her temper but then remembered the purpose of her visit. She forcibly suppressed her anger and put on a pitiful look. Sister, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't have married into a wealthy family. Since you can use Ethan's money, it's time to repay your sister's kindness. I looked at her sideways. I don't have money. I only have an unlimited black card. Emily was burning with anger and pinched the flesh on her palm tightly. In the previous life when she married Ethan, let alone a black card, she hadn't even been given a single red banknote. All her expenses had to come from her parents' family. Emily kept telling herself to be patient. Anyway, she was sure to become rich and prosperous by following William. Isabel's current complacency was only temporary. Seeing Emily's gloomy face, I pretended to be serious again and said, so you came to borrow money from me? You've got some nerve. You just said I was shameless for spending my husband's money. Then what about you? I can be shameless, but you and your husband should have some shame, right? Emily was completely enraged and scolded loudly, Isabel, how can you talk about my husband like that? He will definitely make a fortune sooner or later. As for you, be careful. If you squander like this, it'll be too late when you go bankrupt. Halfway through her words, Ethan pushed the door open and entered. What's going on? You woke Isabel up so early in the morning. Ethan frowned unhappily. Emily smiled awkwardly. I just came to see my sister since she's newly married. Ethan snorted coldly. Well, you've seen her. Please leave now. With that, he walked straight to me, affectionately pulled me into his arms and said, Honey, do you want to go out and have fun today? Emily watched this scene awkwardly, feeling that the jealousy in her heart had nowhere to vent. She never expected that after she had tried so hard to change the arranged marriage, it was Isabel who was living a life of luxury. Emily forced a smile on her face and said, Sister, I'm relieved to see that you're living so well. You and your husband have a good life. I'll go back now. After saying that, Emily left in a dejected manner. Looking back at the affectionate couple leaning against each other and the luxurious yet low-key interior design, anger and jealousy churned in Emily's heart. Both of them had married Ethan before, so why was Ethan's attitude so completely different? If Ethan had treated her like this earlier, why would she have bothered to marry William, that flirtatious playboy, and even be looked down upon by Isabel, this despicable woman? No, she wasn't wrong. It was Ethan who had let her down first. A few days later, I returned to the old house of the Sue family and happened to see Mom stuffing several cards into Emily's hands. She earnestly advised Emily, Emily, I trust you. Give this money to William and let him invest it. Don't forget to take Mom to enjoy a good life when the time comes. Emily couldn't wait to take the money, and a flash of impatience crossed her face. Mom, I know what to do. When I become prosperous, I'll naturally let you live a good life. She dealt with it perfunctorily, but her eyes were fixed on the money in her hands all the time. Sophia smiled and patted her daughter's hand. Good, good, good. I knew my Emily was the most sensible. Unlike Isabel, that ungrateful wretch, who always contradicts me. If she were willing to lend you money for turnover, you wouldn't have to work so hard. Exactly. She can't wait to cut off relations with us. Mom, don't worry. When we make a lot of money, we definitely won't pay any attention to her anymore. Emily echoed. I listened to the conversation between the mother and daughter from a distance, and a sarcastic smile curled up at the corners of my mouth. Sure enough, no matter how many years passed, they wouldn't change. Point one was selfish and snobbish, and the other was partial and blind. Well, instead of forcing an impossible family bond, it was better to let them fend for themselves. I left silently. I knew that in a few years, Emily would squander all of Sophia's money. When I got home, Ethan noticed that I didn't seem to be in a good mood and deliberately changed the topic. By the way, I heard that you've been thinking about starting your own business recently? Yes, I've always wanted to create a clothing brand. I swept away the previous sadness and talked nonstop about my career plan. Ethan listened to my analysis with a smile and nodded in agreement from time to time. Soon, my clothing company was officially established. In less than a year, it had built up a good reputation and a stable market. Coincidentally, when I was inspecting the stores, I accidentally came across a woman dressed in designer brands making a scene in the store. When I walked closer to take a look, it turned out to be Emily, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. She was arrogantly scolding a young shop assistant and insisted that the girl kneel down to put shoes on for her. The young shop assistant blushed, forcibly suppressing her grievances and humiliation, lowering her head and not daring to say a word. Seeing this, Emily intensified her humiliation of the girl. She took out a stack of banknotes from her bag and threw them at the young girl, saying, "With your attitude, you still want to be a salesperson? Kneel down quickly and put shoes on for me. If I'm in a good mood today, maybe I'll give you some money as a reward." I walked over and sneered, "Emily, instead of being a virtuous wife at home, what are you doing out here?" Emily carried her bag and looked me up and down, saying in surprise, "Oh, Isabel, what does it have to do with you when I'm talking to others?" I helped the shop assistant up, patted her on the shoulder soothingly, and asked her to leave for a while. Then I turned around and said faintly, "Making a scene in my store, how can it have nothing to do with me? As for you, don't get arrested for picking quarrels and provoking trouble. I don't think William would want his wife to lose face outside either." Emily widened her eyes and said sharply, "Isabel, what are you so arrogant about? You say this store is yours. I don't know which wild man you relied on to get it." I smiled contemptuously. "It's really not relying on anyone. I earned it all by myself. As for you, aren't you afraid that one day when William goes bankrupt, all your face-saving efforts will have to be sold as junk?" Emily was furious when she heard this. "Isabel, what do you mean? How could my husband go bankrupt? His company is thriving. It won't be long before it's sure to go public. By then, my status in the circle will surpass yours." I shrugged and put on an indifferent expression. "Then I wish you good luck. However, as far as I know, I'm afraid William's company won't last until the day it goes public. Maybe one day, it will be sealed up." Emily seemed to have her concerns hit on the head. She adjusted her clothes resentfully and snorted coldly, "I don't have time to argue with you now. I'll make you pay for this another day." After saying that, she gave me a fierce glare, stepped on her 10-centimeter high heels and walked away with her head held high. I turned to look at the young shop assistant and comforted her, "It's okay. If she comes to trouble you again in the future, don't be afraid. Just fight back." The young shop assistant's eyes became red and she nodded excitedly. Unexpectedly, Emily was still as narrow-minded as ever. Just a few days later, she gathered some fake socialites to come to the store to make trouble. At that time, the young girl stepped forward bravely. She held a steel rod she had picked up in her hand and with a murderous look in her eyes. Emily and the others were so scared that they didn't even have time to say harsh words and quickly fled the store. When I heard about this later, I laughed so hard that I almost slid off the sofa. What I said to Emily didn't take long to come true. William's company was sealed up. I had a hand in all of this. What Emily didn't know was that as early as the engagement banquet, I had started to lay out my plan. Diana was arranged by me on purpose to disrupt the situation. Similarly, Diana, who had always stayed by William's side, had also been secretly collecting evidence of his crimes. Zhao William had been engaged in the business of counterfeit drugs for a long time. He sold inferior drugs to patients at high prices as special effect drugs, causing many families to be ruined. At the beginning, due to a shortage of funds and a small business scope, it was easy for Diana to obtain the evidence. With Emily's financial support, Zhao William's greed became uncontrollable. When the police burst in, he was hiding in the villa, gambling vigorously with several croupiers, with two sexy foreign girls in his arms. Emily couldn't believe it. Half of her life's efforts had gone down the drain, all wasted on a compulsive gambler. The most irritating thing was that when the police escorted William away, he actually looked relaxed and shouted back to Emily, "Honey, you've been wrong these years. When I get out, let's continue to borrow money and do business." Emily fainted from anger again. After everything was settled, Diana came to me and excitedly held my hand. "Isabel, thank you. Years ago, William threatened me with those photos and forced me to be his mistress. Thanks to you, I've finally got rid of his entanglement completely." I patted the back of her hand soothingly. "I just provided an opportunity. This time, it's also because of the evidence you provided that William could be brought to justice. Because of the funds provided by Emily, she would spend the rest of her life in prison on the charge of being an accomplice." Hearing this news, I let out a long sigh of relief. The next day, I went to the courtroom where Zhao William and his wife were on trial. Emily had disheveled hair and was crying bitterly, shouting that she wanted to find a lawyer. I watched coldly, with my heart as calm as still water. At this time, Emily saw me outside the courtroom. I deliberately raised a self-satisfied smile. Emily became even more frenzied and rushed towards me. The court staff almost couldn't hold her back. Emily bared her teeth and brandished her claws in front of me, and the big movements pulled at the wounds left by her cosmetic surgery. Looking at her trying to scold me but unable to say a word, I took the initiative to step forward and said softly, "Sister, actually, I'm just like you. Every step of yours is within my expectation. Thank you for giving me a new life." Emily's eyes widened and she instantly understood what I meant. She struggled desperately to break free from the guard's restraint and reached out to grab my hair. Ethan pulled me back from behind, held me in his arms, and gave Emily a cold glance. Emily couldn't hold back her tears any longer and burst out crying. Her whole body went limp and she was dragged away. The news that Emily had been sentenced to prison spread like wildfire. Sophia, upon hearing this, came to my store on purpose, sat on the ground and threw a tantrum, claiming that I refused to pay to save my own elder sister. The onlookers started talking among themselves, "What the hell? Making money but not saving family members. We should boycott such a black-hearted enterprise." The young shop assistant saw that the situation was not good, yet didn't dare to frighten the old lady, so she immediately informed me to come to the scene. I rushed there quickly, pushed my way through the crowd, and shouted sternly, "Quiet, all of you. My sister and her husband made dirty money and killed many people. They were arrested by the police. Am I supposed to save them? This is the retribution they deserve." Sophia was even more grief-stricken when she heard this and cried out, "Isabel, I gave birth to you and raised you for so many years. How could you bear to watch your own elder sister die? Can't you spend some money to hire a good lawyer for her and try to get a lighter sentence?" I smiled lightly and said, "Mom, you're really partial. Emily has done so many evil things, but instead you blame me for not helping her get acquitted. Don't worry. Not only will I not save her, but I'll also look for evidence to help get her a longer sentence." After hearing these words, the onlookers learned about what had happened and nodded in agreement one after another. "You, as a mother, are really something. Why should your own daughter clean up the mess for another bad apple? And you're spreading rumors here. You're not a proper mother at all." Sophia was scolded harshly and was left speechless for a moment. She glared at me resentfully and shouted angrily, "You ungrateful wretch. I think you can't wait for your own elder sister to die. Fine, from now on, our mother-daughter relationship is severed. Don't come to me either." I ignored Sophia's shouts and curses and replied faintly, "That's exactly what I want." Then I turned around and told the store manager to call the police. After this incident, instead of having my store's reputation affected, the business became even more prosperous. Soon, my company went public. Emily suffered a lot in prison and finally died of a serious illness. I deliberately collected her ashes and asked someone to send them to the Isabel family. Because the Isabel family had fallen on hard times and Mother had been staying in the house all year round, she didn't know about Emily's death. I also sent along a few cassette tapes, all of which were recordings of Emily scolding Sophia behind her back for being incompetent at saving money. Although I had severed my relationship with Mother, I believed that Mother would be very happy to receive this gift and could spend the rest of her life with her favorite daughter. This could also be regarded as my last act of filial piety. At the celebration banquet for the company's listing, I looked at the guests coming and going and felt nothing but joy. Now that I had avenged myself, I could also bid farewell to the once bullied self and focus on the present. Ethan walked over, gently put his arm around me, and joked, "Honey, everything is over. Finally, we can go on a date." I smiled at him, and we kissed gently.